JoJo's Bizarre Adventure is an amazing, multi-generational story about a singular bloodline going across many different bizarre adventures throughout 3 different centuries. There's Jonathan Joestar, Joseph Joestar, Jotaro Kujo, Josuke Higashigata, Jorah Chavana, Jolene Kujo, Johnny Joestar, and Josuke Higashigata again, but in Part 8. All amazing characters with all amazing stories, and all amazing friends to accompany them. And where the many friends of the Joestars throughout the stories have their own fan base for each individual character, a lot of people I feel don't realize how important these characters are. Some people would say, hey, the series might be better off had this character never existed. But that's not true, because what I want to show you today is if one character were removed from one part of the story, how would it affect the timeline of JoJo's that we know? This is what would happen if Jonathan never met Erina. I tried recording this video before, but the file got corrupted. The basis for this conversation came about from me and my friends talking about our favorite JoJo's and then our favorite supporting cast, and how we eventually came to the idea that a JoJo would be dead if not for, like, people in their group. Even if one minor character in their group were taken away, the main JoJo would still die, no matter what. Whether this be Joshu in Part 8, whether this be Steven in Part 7, whether this be Emporio in Part 6, whether this be Fugo in Part 5, whether this be Yuya in Part 4, whether this be Iggy in Part 3, whether this be Stroheim in Part 2, and whether this be Erina in Part 1. If you were to remove any of these characters, the main JoJo would die at one point or another. And this is what we are going to be discussing today. If anybody feels I am incorrect about certain places, then please make sure to mention it in the comments below and I will gladly consider it. Now we'll start at the beginning of Part 1, and the events for Part 1 actually start out the same as they do in the original series. Dario's on his deathbed telling Dio to live with the Joestars after his passing, reminiscing about the debt that George owes him, and then Dario dies and now we're at the graveyard. So everything is pretty much the same up to this point. Instead of the 2 bullies bullying Erina outside the Joestar Manor, there is nothing. The bullies have decided to leave Erina alone today. By the way, all supporting characters still exist in the JoJo universe, except for the ones who were born out of these events happening. So Jonathan never walked by his house only to see a small girl being bullied by 2 12-year-olds and decided to stop it. Nope, Jonathan is just at his house playing with Danny. He has no bruises because there was no fight to occur. So now Dio arrives in his wagon. The whole scene plays out. He throws in his suitcase. They say hello to one another, and then Dio kicks Danny in the face, leaving Jonathan reasonably upset. The scene plays out normal as well. Jonathan is being harassed by his father because of missteps that he's made by accident, as well as Jonathan get beat up at the boxing match, and Jonathan's friends beat him up as he's left by a lake. The only difference now is the person who's left comforting Jonathan is Danny and not Erina. Erina has never met Jonathan, so there's no reason for her to return his handkerchief because he's never been beaten up by those bullies before. So Erina never left a basket of grapes for Jonathan as well as his handkerchief, thereby sparking interest in Jonathan. Nope, Jonathan just has Danny. The good news, however, is that Danny gets to live in this timeline, because no fight will occur later that causes him to die. However, instead, Jonathan is just emotionally tortured by Dio. But Funk, what about Jonathan's fight with Dio that boosts its confidence? Well, that doesn't happen because Jonathan and Erina aren't dating. Therefore, Dio would never kiss her, thereby never infuriating Jonathan to fight for her honor, showing that he will never back down in a fight against Dio. But again, Jonathan never meets Erina, therefore there's no fight because they're not dating, and Dio would never do something like that. And because of this, Dio and Jonathan never find out about the stone mask. The stone mask just hangs there on the wall as a decoration, because Dio's blood never got on it, and Jonathan never became interested and became an archaeologist, and Dio never decided to use it to murder Jonathan. 7 years pass, and George has become sick, very sick. with the same illness that Dario has. George dies. He just dies. Why is it that he dies? Because Jonathan never found the letter that Dario sent, because he's not an archaeologist, therefore he would not be looking through all the books that's inside the Joestar Manor to try to find information about it. Besides, even if Jonathan did find the letter, what's he going to do? He's been so emotionally damaged to the point that he's not going to act, because he knows about Dio's wrath, and that's the last thing he wants. So George dies, and Jonathan and Dio both get a cut of what's left in his will. I'm sure Dio would either murder Jonathan or somehow swindle him out of his share of the money, leaving Jonathan not as wealthy as he was prior, now living in possibly a cottage. Maybe he'll find another person to fall in love with. Maybe he'll find someone to fall in love with and start a small family, but that's not going to be George Joestar II, and Jonathan sadly will still be very emotionally damaged. Hopefully they'll be slightly bettered by his partner. Dio would go on to commit many murders, stealing other people's inheritances. And Speedwagon, you might ask? Well, Speedwagon will most likely live out his days in Overstreet until he becomes an old man, now he himself mugged by a younger man with a scar on his face. It's a lot like the Clockwork Orange ending if you ever read the book. I haven't, but I know about the ending. And Jack the Ripper is just basically the same. Erina would go to India with her father as she does in the original story, but there's no reason for her to return. However, elsewhere on the other side of the world is William Antonio Zappelli, an Italian who learned the ability of Hamon so that he could combat the stone mask and its abilities, the thing that killed his father and the many people on that crew that night. In doing so, however, Zeppeli has left his son and his wife behind. Mario Zeppeli is very saddened that his father has not returned after many years of searching. However, many years pass and Zeppeli still can't find the stone mask or any trace of it. This is because the thing still lays in the Joestar Manor. Almost giving up, Zeppeli returns back to his son and his wife, and vows he will train his son and his grandchildren to stop the stone mask in case it ever does arrive. That is until 1938. In 1938, Santana is not awoken, or discovered, or anything like that. Santana just stays there because Speedwagon hasn't found the Speedwagon Foundation, because he never went to America, because he never got oil, because there was no fight in Windy Night's Lot. Santana just stays there forever, and the Nazi officer Rudolf von Stroheim never discovers him because there's no Speedwagon to have discovered him first. And Straizo doesn't turn evil, and Dyer doesn't die either. Tom Petty's still dead though. He's an old man, it was bound to happen. They just passed by Mexico and never set up a base there to perform this experiment. In Italy, we now have a grown-up Caesar with his father Mario and his grandfather Zeppeli. Both Mario and Caesar are now heavily trained in Hamon. Caesar's siblings are not really. We never learn if, we never really learn if they can do Hamon in the series, so I'm just gonna leave them out for this. Again, the three continue to train in case of the Stone Mask's influence coming back, which it now has. Again, this is 1938, the year that the Pillarmen awaken. This time, however, their awakening is actually far easier because, okay, it was easy when they woke up, but this is crazy easy now because there isn't really a lot of UV lights because, again, Stroheim never woke up Santana, and they never heard of how that failed. So Wemu does the whole thing he does, and it really just takes even lesser time than it did originally. So it all just occurs the same way. Except now, Joseph is never born, so Joseph and Speedwagon never come to Italy to ask Caesar for help, and Caesar never contacts Mark so that they can get to Rome, so that they can get to the Colosseum. Mark and Caesar are most likely still friends in this timeline, as, again, Italy and Germany were friends at this point. But again, there's no reason for them to really attempt to go there. So Cars, AC/DC, and Wemu will go about their journey to try to find the Redstone of Asia, again leaving Santana behind, as Cars would probably not permit them to go find him. At least not at this point. So they check various countries and states until AC/DC comes across Tibet, where he finds the Hamon tribe's Tibetan temple. Weeks later, Zeppeli gets a letter, it being from Dyer. Zeppeli reads it in horror. The Hamon tribe has been attacked by an unknown monster. Zeppeli takes a boat or a plane, whichever one's easiest. His grandson's friends with Mark, he can probably get connections. So he either takes a boat or a plane to Tibet to assist in the fight against this unknown enemy. But once he arrives, he is in horror. The entire Hamon tribe has been defeated, and the Redstone of Asia is missing. Dyer, Straits, Messina, Loggins, because those two most likely are there, because there's no reason to be at Air Supply Island. They are all dead. Zeppeli, being a part of the Hamon tribe, no doubt knows about the Pillarmen. So when he returns to Italy, he informs his son and his grandson that this new threat has awoken, that the creators of the Stone Mask have awoken, and it is their job to destroy them. The Pillarmen start going around to different countries destroying their world leaders until they arrive to Italy. Zeppeli, Caesar, and Mario all arrive, being faced with these giant godlike beings. Caesar is the youngest, so he's the most rash. He goes in for the attack first, and is torn to shreds by Wamu's surprisingly strong winds. Mario is grief-stricken and enraged. He goes in for the next attack, his father yelling out his name. AC/DC is the one to kill him. Mario is burned to cinders by an immensely powerful flame, and Zeppeli just lays there, distraught, emotionally destroyed. His son and his grandson, his legacy. Cars informs the old man that they have used the red stone on the Stone Mask, making them into the perfect life forms. Zeppeli accepts his fate, as there is no way they can defeat the Pillarmen. Cars takes him out swiftly, using the very thing that Zeppeli learned to take down the Stone Mask and its abilities. Hamon. And with that, the Hamon users are dead. Cars, AC/DC, and Wamu enslave the human race, forcing them to tear down their buildings, destroy their technology, and form new buildings in its place. Buildings similar to that of the architecture of the Pillarmen Society. Humans who wish not to die and to become servants of the Pillarmen are turned into vampires. They are sent countless places across the world, investigating, searching, finding anything of value to the Pillarmen. Eventually they find Santana. Cars debates whether to awaken him again, but Wamu pleads, so Cars abides. Chances are where Cars does not require sex, the other Pillarmen would most likely breed with the other vampires, at least in some capacity bringing back the former Pillarmen Society. A decade passes, and a vampire arrives to Lord Cars' castle, informing them that they have found a nest of arrows that were being withheld by a woman with 2 right hands. They bring the woman into questioning. It is Enya Guile, but a much younger Enya Guile. Cars demands to know what these arrows do and why she was hiding them. Enya informs them that they have a strange ability and that she offers to show them so that her and her son Jay Guile will not be killed. Cars abides, for now. They test one of the arrows on a vampire, the vampire gaining a strange ability that no one else can see, but its effects are very much felt. This vampire has just now achieved a stand, a manifestation of one's life energy and soul, standing next to them, protecting them. The arrows are used on Cars and his entourage, as well as all the vampires in their army. With this new ability, there is no way that any outside forces or any other humans could possibly defeat them. The Pillarmen have won. And that is the What If Jonathan Never Met Erina video. As for parts 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, and 8, 7 and 8 still happen, but they're another timeline altogether, so the events of this timeline do not in any way affect those ones. This is just a what-if timeline of, characters like Joseph, Jotaro, all the JoJos that come after part 1, they don't happen anymore, because Jonathan never met Erina, and they never had George Joestar II, and they just were never born. Lisa was still born, however, but she most likely led a different life than the one that she had, because her parents were never killed in that boat ride honeymoon. I hope that you guys really like this this idea, this video, this what if scenario. Took a lot to think about. I apologize if any of it seems incorrect, information-wise. Again, if you feel like it was, or have any holes in my theory, please do let me know in the comment section below, and I hope you enjoyed. Thank you for watching. Have a good day. You